Hey, hope you're having a good day. I'm here down in Boulder, Colorado, with the legendary Flatirons behind me up there. We got a bunch of CEOs here for a 2-day private study tour with Jim Collins. So I love coming to Boulder, probably my 10th time here. It's a great spot, great little city. And it's where the master lives and hosts people in his boardroom for those sessions. Um, and what I want to talk about and kind of, think about some of the Collins principles right now, the principles of productive paranoia and the principles of oxygen canisters and Stockdale paradox. All those things are kind of at play right now with the things that are happening around us. And as I was thinking about how do we be prepared for these situations where the game kind of gets changed and things happen to make business very, very challenging and people's lives too. And the Boy Scouts have the be prepared motto that was, I think it was Robert Baden Powell. I looked it up. The founder of the Boy Scouts came up with that model, which is kind of being prepared for lots of different situations. And in our scenarios, it's hard because there's so many things to be prepared for in building a business and building a great enterprise. And there's contingency plans and risk assessments and all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, things show up that you're never going to have on any of those plans or any of those lists. And that planning's great. Uh, but it's never enough because you can't protect against everything. And the one thing that comes up, and this was in Collins's book, Great by Choice, is the one thing that you can, and what the great companies generally have, is something we call a fortress balance sheet, or he would call having lots of oxygen canisters, which means access to a lot of cash. And so that when things like this come along, you can buy time and you can buy and find creative ways around things without having to go into a panic overnight. So I wanted to share a couple of things. And I made a couple of notes here about, fortress balance sheets and what people do. And worked with lots of amazing entrepreneurs over the years that have built great empires. And over time, they have a fortress balance sheet or generally have access to one. So for private equity backed clients, the actual operating company might not have that balance sheet, but the private equity firm usually can have a lot of access to both equity capital and debt with their debt partners. But it's that equity capital that is generally where we need to rely on, because sometimes the debt partners aren't in a position to give us more money when we need it, or aren't too keen on doing that. So generally they have for the company's work, they have enough cash that they can sustain operations for quite a while. And then they will, especially in lower rate times, that they will keep the cash in the bank and then borrow the money. So they always have that, couple years of, could be months or years of operating expenses that they can cover. And it can be cash or equivalents, things that they can access, but somehow there's a big rainy day fund. Many people will strategically make sure they also have partners or shareholders that have access to a bigger balance sheet that they can tap into. Like in a privately held business, that can be a strategy. Obviously, in public companies or private equity backed, there's different models there. And a couple of the things that I see often is that they will also have unencumbered assets, often real estate, but unencumbered in any way, i.e., there's no debt, there's no partners, so that they can access that cash and borrow against it. So if a property is worth $40 million and in a bad market, it might be worth 30, but they could at least pull 15, maybe 20 million bucks out against it. And it might be at higher rates and less favorable terms, but they can get into and have access to that cash. Because at the end of the day, you can have great management, great disciplines, great everything. If you get into a crisis situation around our cash, it doesn't matter. Right? You need to find other ways. So these people, and especially family businesses that have been around, they're in generation 2 or generation 3, they will have learned over the years and have access to it. So this isn't rocket science, but the key is if you've already got that kind of balance sheet, then you can have the time and make good choices. And obviously you might have to make some changes if it affects your business, whether it's economics overall or specific things like tariffs for your business. If you haven't, there's no time like today, you can start to think about it. And if you have enough, room on your balance sheet to support your business for 6 months, maybe you stretch it out to 12. Or maybe you take strategies like they take in the automotive business, where they try and build mechanisms into their business where, for example, in car dealerships, where the service revenue can cover all of the operating costs, even if they didn't sell a car. And so they've got models like that different industries work with. So either way, it's a great time to contemplate how we think about cash, how we think about our balance sheet. And if you're set up and ready to go, great. If not, start thinking about who are the partners or who are the people I could get to know that could support me and be there as that person if we get into a challenging time. So you don't have to slip all the way down the hill if it gets rough. Hopefully we don't have to, but in challenging times, the balance sheet, oxygen canisters, fortress balance sheet, whatever you want to call it, it makes all the difference in the world. And I hope that you're in that position. All the best.